So what we're going to look at today is this part that really resonates for me, which is rediscovering self. That I'm not broken, that I am me. And we're going to look at that as we go through, just really kind of connecting with our resources and how do we manifest those. All right. So just take notice what happens for you when you see this picture. So for me, this just actually really represents my love for the model. I felt home with when I learned about the Virginia Satir's transformational systemic therapy model. It was like that place that it was like, ah. And what it did is it spoke to a deeper part of me. And it's so interesting because I find that I get quite tender and I have these like emotions that come up whenever I'm in that space of connectedness, acceptance, love. And it just stimulates this energy inside of me. And I believe, my belief is that the Virginia Satir holds as well and teaches us that we are all born whole. Like we are born in our purest form of that innocence and this life energy. So I just want you to take a moment and just notice, and if you want, you can use the chat. So throughout our time together in the next 20, 25 minutes, just kind of connecting with what comes up for you as you connect to this like pure innocence picture, or just this picture. That's my perception of pure and innocent. But what comes up for you? And I don't know if messages are coming up or not, because I can't see them on my screen. So maybe Linda or Jennifer, sorry, I didn't ask you earlier.
Yeah, I can read them out as they come.
Yeah.
Trusting, simple happiness of living, innocence, joy, wonderful memories, pure joy. I felt I'm loved by my family, light, hope, wonder, joy.
Beautiful. So that we
calmness, hope, and joy.
Beautiful. Yeah, I want to make sure we hear all of them. So being born at this place of our true essence of who we are, when we come into this world, we are given all of this. It's like a spirit. It's at who we are at our core essence. My screen, sorry, I'm just going to move my screen over here. And so we're actually born with resources. We have these, it's like entities or these like people, maybe things, but there's these entities that we have that are always made available to us. So resources are just those entities that are available to us that actually help support us in satisfying or fulfilling a need. So we're yearning or we're wanting something, and we find a way to get that. And so there's purpose. It's like our resources have a means to an end. And so just kind of on a holistic level, we have the kind of physical, mental, social, emotional part of self. And there's resources in all of those. And we're going to go deeper and look at what resources mean for us and how we use them. But just to kind of give you an overall kind of symbolic wheel of representation of self in those 4 areas. And those resources, they actually aren't, they just are. They're not good, they're not bad, but they just are. They're there for us to access. And then over time in life experiences, we have what we know Virginia Satir speaks to us is we have impacts. So there's impacts over our life experiences. So as a child early on, we know that if we have a need to be picked up or our diaper changed or we're hungry, we access the part of us that cries and wants and lets the person know we have a need. So when our yearnings are unfulfilled, when they're not met, we find ways to get them met. And as like a baby, we'll cry when they're not met, or we might have a temper tantrum, or we might scream. But then when our yearnings are met, we might experience ourselves, or we might experience the child differently, in a place of wholeness, of laughter, giggling, smiling, or maybe just being content and happy where we're at. And as we go through life and we have different experiences that come up, as we know within the iceberg, we start to make meaning of things. And when we make meaning of things, that's when we start to judge our experiences and our resources. We access our resources. So if our needs are not being met, we then go into this place of, how do I get my needs met? And we might feel bad about the way we respond to getting our needs met. So if I use anger, or if I use a loud voice, or if I use sadness, my experience in that could be that I make meaning and perceive it as being negative. So then I learn, how do I use this resource to support me? And then we build in, it's almost like I imagine or envision like a cocoon. When we're in our wholeness and we're experiencing events and life around us, when something happens and impacts, we have that like sheath. It's almost like one layer of a cocoon comes over us, and then another layer of a cocoon comes over us. And so we have all these like experiences. When we're not in ourself and incongruent, we start to like get covered up, and we start to hide. So our body, our wholeness, physical, mental, social, emotional, responds, and we have energy that comes out. And so we can see that there's different experiences that we might have. So our heart might start to palpate. We might start getting a stomach ache, like, oh my gosh, I just want to do a really good job, but I'm kind of feeling sick to my stomach about it. And so depending on what's happening in our bodies, we can access that, and we make choices on what we do with those resources. So that's kind of just like life in general, and we learn to judge them. But if you go back to the baby picture, for somebody that looks at that actually might bring up some different impacts for them. So they might have a different response. It might bring up sadness. And so the meaning that they make of it, and then how do we survive in those places where we don't find love, where we don't connect to joy, where we're not connecting to our life energy. When I was thinking about, being in this time with you guys together today, I was like, there's so much to say. There's so much going on. And it's like, it could definitely be like a full day workshop. And so I want to appreciate and just kind of honor that some of this is going to be a review for people, and just hoping that we can take something away for us. Each of us can take something away. And so the home for me is like out of the cognitive kind of idea of resources. Resources are the things that we access to help support us. So if I'm feeling nervous and flustered, the resource that I have to kind of get me back grounded is that I can just pause. I can maybe just take a deep breath. Those are the resources that I have within me. And Virginia Satir says that we have all of these resources. They are all within us, and we all have access to these resources. Sometimes we might not be aware of them. And sometimes in not being aware of them, when we have identified them, judged them, labeled them as being negative, we lose sight of that there is actually a positive intention behind that. And so we want to look at, how are we using our resources? Do we even notice that our resources are actually protecting us. And again, it's like, you know, we can resist something, and it's like I've worked with youth and adolescents in trouble with the law for a significant part of my journey. And it was always like, oh, they're resistant, they're oppositional defiant, they're liars, they're this, they do this, they do this. And so when we're in that place, we actually forget to connect with the person, who they are. What can happen and tends to happen is that we identify and label their coping, their behaviors, but who they are. And when we can connect to that place that's deeper inside, we can appreciate and see that those like surface, like above the waterline, right? So with the iceberg, the behaviors we're seeing is just that deeper need to protect, that there's something super deep inside that needs to be protected. And so with that scary place, whether it's about safety, whether it's about control, whether it's about pain, anything that touches into that pain and suffering, we end up forming this protection around us. And we access ways to keep us in that place of surviving. So appreciating, you know, different languages. I like to use, you know, what I think Jennifer and Linda have done a beautiful job in is, you know, there's the coping stances, but it really is this place of like a survival. We are surviving and remembering that in survival, we're still choosing life. There's still a part that's inside that wants to live. And so with the resources, if I am scared, or if I'm nervous, or if I'm depressed, if I'm angry, I am going to figure out a way to be able to protect my deeper yearning. So the resource is actually the energy that actually helps facilitate us connecting to our yearnings. What are those deeper yearnings that we're wanting? They're all universal, right? We want love, acceptance, freedom, safety, validation. So if you just take a moment to just think about, and I love, you know, in our meditations, we always, you know, reflect on, we're guided to reflect on what are we wanting for ourselves in this moment? What do we need? And knowing that whenever we're in that place and connected to that energy, that place of being, that yearning, we can access ways to get that fulfilled. And so when we try and they're unmet, then we figure out other ways. So if somebody is not listening to me and I want to be acknowledged and heard, I can choose to protect that place of tenderness and vulnerability by maybe becoming really, really loud. Or maybe I hide myself and I don't want to be seen, even though that's the very thing that I do want, is to be seen. And so we use these forms of protection to keep us moving forward, to keep us connected to what we're yearning for. And as we all have all these resources within us, Virginia Satir and the work that we get to facilitate with the people we work with is to identify the positive intention behind it. Every resource that we have has a positive intention. And there's energy that gets activated behind that. So in my picture, you know, there's fire. So fire is a resource, and we can use fire to burn someone, fire to burn a house down. We can also use fire to keep us warm, to cook. Money is a resource. Money can be used in a way that helps us, flourishes us, and grows us. It can also be used in a harmful way that hinders us and that we hide parts of us behind. Water can be used to keep us hydrated. It could also be used to drown in. So when we're working with individuals, and what I want is to be intentionally looking at the gems, those gifts, those positive resources. And so I want to activate the energy that comes with going from a shift of being stuck in the anger, stuck in the anxiety, stuck in the depression, stuck in my OCD thoughts, because that's not who I am. Who I am is so much deeper than that. And so I want, as a therapist or support, is to be able to identify and highlight on the positive intention that then activates that energy, that then the person can appreciate and see how they've been working so hard to get their yearnings met. So again, within every resource, there's always a positive intention. And so as we know within Virginia Satir's model, there are 4 ways that Virginia says that we survive. And so what I want to quickly do, and if you guys can feel free to just put in the chat, would be great. And then Jennifer or Linda, one of you guys could, if you don't mind, just reading them off. But when we look at the place when we're surviving and fighting so desperately hard to connect with our yearning, if we take the stance of placating, what would you identify as being the positive resources in using this way of surviving?
Kindness, caring, safety, attention to others, accommodating, yearning for peace, awareness of others, consideration for others, empathy, in some situations, safety, harmony, sensitive, acceptance, selflessness.
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah. So when we think about being in that place, in that I'm pushing myself behind, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, and we can help support people to acknowledge and see, and that we can also appreciate that in that there are so many positive resources that come with that. So you guys listed some amazing gems within the resource of coming to that stance. Let's shift over to blaming. When we use blaming as a way to survive, what's the positive intention? What's the resource in blaming? Maybe not necessarily it could be blaming, but about us. What are the positive resources I have? Who am I?
Control, knowing I'm valuable. Oh, it's going really fast. Hold on. Empowered, self-preservation, power, having a voice, confidence, proclaiming innocence, self-preservation, advocating, courageous, attempt to balance.
Yeah, beautiful. So those
standing up, strength.
Beautiful. I love hearing all those. Fabulous. Beautiful. So gems or gifts, they have value to us. They bring us something to support our needs. What about when we look at super reasonable? What do we notice the positive resource or the intention behind that resource when I am in a place of using super reasonable?
Calm, intelligent, neutral, justice, thoughtful, relief from overwhelming emotions, logical, fairness, knowledgeable, problem solving.
Great. Yeah.
I am so smart.
Love it. And even just listening to those are so lovely, because it shifts and it goes from the resource. And if you actually connect and hear, taking that resource actually taps into who I am, right? I am in control. I am. And these are the resources that help support that. What irrelevant?
Freedom.
Mm-hmm. I am in a place of irrelevance.
Unconstrained. Creative. Let's go. They're all coming. Where did we go here? Unconstrained. Creative. Cool about it all. Flexible. Humor. Lightness. I need to get away. Carefree. Humor and fun. Distraction. Humor. Humor and creative. Humor. Funny. Playfulness. Escape.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And it's like
Spontaneous was another one.
Yeah, spontaneity for sure. And so it's like when we can connect to that intention, that positive use of the resource. So it's there. How do we use it? When we can identify those positive intentions and come from that place of being in that energy, right? Because we all have energy and it's all getting activated. That when we can connect into that energy, that actually like creates that openness when we're working with people, and even just for ourselves to just really kind of hone in, okay, I had a reaction to that. I'm feeling quite angry. Okay, what does my anger want for me? How am I going to use that anger? What's that anger about? What's the positive intention that it brings me? It's fighting for me. It wants to express itself. It's a messenger to tell me something. So wanting to really find out what the experience of how they experience themselves, identifying those positive intentions, that offers a shift in the perception. So the perception in not only how I see myself in that, right? I'm in control, or I am free, or I am safety. So not in control, but like I am safe. When we can come from that place of how do I perceive myself, that shifts in how I perceive the other person in relation, right? Other. And then how do I perceive my world? How am I in this context right now in my experience? When clients or when people come to us, they're obviously like I've experienced that they're coming because they want something different, right? They want to change. They're aware that they want something different. And many people will do whatever they can in that survival place, and they try their hardest. And oftentimes they come in stuck in what I think Jennifer did a presentation a while ago, and we have the different icebergs, and there's actually 4 different icebergs. But when we're in that kind of iceberg 1, iceberg 2, there's in that place of suffering and survival. And so when I'm in suffering, I'm actually attaching to that is who I am. That is how I see I am when I'm attached in that. And in the survival, it's like I'm just living. I'm just here. I'm just trying to make every day count, or trying to get through the day. I can't wait till bedtime comes. I don't know about you guys, but there have been times where I have experienced myself saying, oh my gosh, is it bedtime yet? Like, can I just close my eyes and rest? And that desire speaks to the need, what do I need? And so when people come to see us, they're in this place of suffering, and they've been experiencing the impacts of this suffering. Now, for some people, that suffering and that place of survival, it actually it can impact immediately for sure. What we also notice and experience, I've noticed and experienced, is that over time, it actually is like this chipping away, right? So if I had an early experience as a child where I didn't see myself as being good enough, I made a mistake and I didn't see myself as being good enough all of a sudden. And my experience was that I was put down, I was dismissed, I was ridiculed, I was made fun of. Now I'm gonna learn to maybe not show up and not be seen because of the fear of making that mistake and not being good enough. With our life experiences, it slowly can chip away and manifest that belief that I have. And so with like an iceberg, it can have a very hard impact, a trauma, something significant that happens that hits us at a level that we go into a place of survival. And what we do with that, how we manifest, where we put our energy impacts how we are with ourself, with the self. So the essence, the core of who we are. And so over time, the impacts, they can slowly, slowly chip away at who we are. And when that happens, we actually can completely disconnect from our essence, from our life energy. We have struggled to even see that part of us anymore. So in that suffering, in that way of surviving, we actually take on, we can choose, but we take on this way of surviving. So we start to change who we are. Sometimes we alter who we are. We might hide who we are. We might contort ourselves. Again, it's kind of like in that, like pulling up all the different layers of protection around us just to like not hit that suffering part. Again, I want to protect myself from that. And in doing that, now there is this like disconnection from my essence, from that life energy of who I truly am. So within the work that we're supporting with our clients, what I want to do is I want to reconnect to who they are. So my belief is that everybody is born good. My belief is that everybody has the resources within them to survive and they know how to survive. That in our survival, the resources that we access we judge them and they could be seen as negative. And I want to highlight and I want to identify the positive intention of those resources. And going deeper, I also want to connect with how they really truly experience themselves. So how do they see themselves? And that's at that like core level of self. So I had like this beautiful conversation with John, and so we can use our resources to connect to who we are, and we can also connect to who we are to manifest our resources. And for me, that is where I want to lead, where I want to go with my clients, is I want to go down to, in their chaos of experiencing how they want to be and how they're experiencing themselves, I want to bring that together and truly find out what their experience is and how they experience themselves, not see themselves. Like I could see myself as being weak. I could see myself as being a failure, but it's at a deeper core level that speaks to us, that energy actually like bubbles up and the energy comes through, and on all the different cells levels, it's from that core. So there is no right or wrong. Do we start at the top? Do we start at the bottom of the iceberg? I like to start at the bottom to really connect with how do I see themselves, and then to see and how that manifests all the way up. And so again, tapping into those positive intentions. So that's one of the processes. Now, in order to have transformational change on a very like systemic level, we can keep our clients stuck in their pain and suffering, and we can like pump them up and say, oh, you've been doing such a great job. I had a client actually this week say, he just came in for the first time and he says, Corrinna, I just don't want this airy fairy build me up stuff. Like, I really want to go deep. And I thought that was like so cute and humorous, because it's like, oh, we're going to go deep, but we're going to go where you want to go. But in that desire, in that shift of going from iceberg one of that suffering into identifying the positive intentions of the resources to survive in that survival place, there's another layer moving into that third iceberg, which is taking charge, where you get to own your experience and own our choices. This is kind of for me when I'm even just processing for myself personally, but even just like with clients, it's like, okay, there's the awareness of what's happening in my experience. I'm aware of how I'm experiencing myself. I'm appreciating the positive intentions, or I'm appreciating my life force energy fighting for me to get my yearnings met, right? Because that's at the core level of self. But that part of me, that essence, that spiritual part, is fighting so hard for me. Sometimes it comes out in ways that I judge as negative, but I want to appreciate that. And then I move into, I'm owning my experience now. This is my experience. And then moving that into action. So just a quick little example, and sorry, I don't know how to keep the time, but a quick little example is when I was a probation officer. I was in an environment and in a place, and back then when I was a probation officer, it was the Attorney General. So youth and adults were together. And I just remember people saying to me, Corrinna, you're such a bleeding heart. You're so naive. You're so uneducated. Oh, you're new. Oh, just wait until you like hit reality of the way people are. And I would, at first it was like kind of funny, like, ha, 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 ha. And again, that's that chipping away. It's like, whatever. And it's just like, okay. But then it actually really started to impact me. And then as I moved on through my life, and I started to, put myself out there and connect to who I am as a person, I started to get ridiculed for being this way. So my essence was under attack. My integrity of how I experienced myself in this place started to become attacked. And then I started thinking, well, oh my gosh, in order to be a probation officer and be in this job, this is how I have to perform. This is how I have to behave. And then I started developing all these ideas and beliefs about who I was. And I ended up, instead of going there because that was way too scary, I ended up just changing who I was. And then I started realizing, or my life force energy started fighting for me. And I started going through immune conditions. I've had that. And I started experiencing sickness and having breakouts. And it was like, okay, what is going on? So now, retrospect with my knowledge and my self-awareness and attunement, it's like I changed who I was to conform to other people's perceptions, beliefs, and judgments. And I stayed in an environment that I thought was what I wanted. When I went deeper and connected to owning my own experience and saying, this isn't who I am. This isn't my life force energy. This isn't my energy. This is their energy. I get to own my own energy. And so then I got to take action, and I actually moved from being a probation officer to end up working in a more holistic, loving place. But it was that driving force, and I can't do it now, I don't think. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna not do it. But if you remember the picture of our gems and our resources with the fire, what's driving the fire behind that is the love, is the heart. It's like, that is my essence. And I want to tap into and connect to that energy so that when I am going through with my clients, it can be really hard to act on. It's like, well, it's easy for you to say, but I am in this depletion, hopeless, helpless state. So I see my role as a companion, as a flashlight, that I'm on this journey with clients in discovering who they truly are. So I want to and I love the reading and the meditation today. Jennifer Linda was so beautiful, and that reading was just so perfect, because I see every person in their essence of this is home, in my natural state of who I am. And sometimes that gets hidden and skewed. And so in my own life energy, connecting to who I am and showing up and being me, I get to actually support and be beside my clients, that I can just shine a light in their home. So you imagine in the body, we're going to go in there and we're going to go deeper. And in that home, we're going to go down some hallways and we're going to go to some doors, and we're just going to flash a light on there. Now they're going to say, nope, that's not, or they're going to open it and go, nope, nothing's there. And then they might get to a door and we open it and they go, that's way too scary. And then they want to shut the door. And it's like, that's okay, because there's some work to be done before we go in there. So we get these messages, and we want to honor and respect that this is their journey, and they're going to discover all these different parts that they have within themselves that might be super scary and might be foreign to them. And then we get to appreciate and we get to nurture and we get to heal those. And I want to tap into those experiences of how they see themselves in that positive life energy, that when they experience themselves with that love and that connectedness, feeling that, it's like a sense of being. When I am in and connected to self, it's an experience of being versus doing. And so just really quickly, I don't know what our time is.
Really, really quick, Corrinna.
Okay.
We need to, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I know
Okay.
this could be like
That's
a total
okay.
workshop, and I get like super excited, and I
beautiful.
apologize, because it's like, this is the like parts, right? Really quickly. So I was working with a teenage girl just actually recently, and her challenge was on the left. What she came in with the presenting problem was that none of her friends like her, want to be around her. And so they're on the outsides with their backs turned to her. You can see that. And she was just standing in the middle at the beginning, and she's like, nobody likes me. So as we explored and tapped into what her experience was, what was happening. And so she identified, and you can see on the right-hand side, these 3 or 4 different entities, these things that were happening to her. So it was her negative self-talk, it was her low self-esteem, it was judgment, it was perception. So she experienced these, and that's how she saw herself. So if you imagine our clients coming to us in that space and in that place, it's like the feelings that come up with the connection of who I am, it is literally under attack when we're in that place. And so we did a process of exploring, and I won't go into all of it, but exploring just different parts of her that she connects to and she appreciates and she values and that she really likes about herself. And when she did that, she connected to those parts. I said, what gets in the way of your friends seeing those parts of you? And she said, well, because those demons are so scary. And I said, how do we change those demons to being not so scary? And so she actually went through and removed those attacking animals that were attacking her, and she replaced them with these other animals that were talking more about her, parts of her that were caring, patient, kind, fun. And so she placed those around, which then allowed her friends to actually see who she truly is, to connect with her essence. And then asking her and tapping into, what was the driving force that allowed you to connect to those resources that you have, those beautiful gifts that you have within you? And she pulled out an elephant and she placed it in front of her and she put her hand on it. It was just so beautiful, because she says, that's my love. And it wasn't her love for her friends, it was her love for herself. So when she connected to, I am love, I am at my essence, she was able to have an amazing relationship with herself. She could hold her resources and manifest them in a positive way. And her friends actually got to see her. So I just said that.
Thank you, Corrinna.
Life energy. Yeah. And there's that. And I'm going to leave. Oh,
I know. We won't have time.
We won't have time. I
your
know.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful presentation. But how would you like to wrap up in we're going to go into breakout rooms soon.
Yeah,
So
we're going
what
to go
would you
into
like them
breakout
to
rooms.
share?
Oh, yes, sorry. So in your breakout rooms, maybe just like think about and share with each other. And of course, these are just guides, right? How you experience yourself under stress. So how do you see yourself and what resources are you aware of? And maybe just to identify that. Or what part of your essence of who you are at your core level of self do you connect with when you're working with people? And when you're in this like place of harmony and totally connected and grounded, what resources are you aware of that you're actually manifesting and creating space for? So just anything that came up for you. And I hope that there was something that you each were able to take away.